So, I want you to imagine this scenario for a second. A modern commercial airliner takes off from a major international airport. The weather, perfectly clear. The aircraft is totally state-of-the-art, and the guys sitting in the cockpit are highly experienced. By all accounts, it is a completely standard, totally routine flight. But then, less than an hour later, it just vanishes from the radar. No distress signal, no warning, no clear explanation whatsoever. It literally just disappears into the dark. Today, we're taking a serious, methodical look at the facts surrounding the single greatest unsolved mystery in modern aviation history. It's been more than a decade, and honestly, the whole world is still searching for an answer to one central question. What actually happened to Flight MH370? I mean, how does a massive, modern passenger plane just vanish from the face of the Earth? Was it a tragic accident? Some kind of catastrophic technical failure? A deliberate act? Or is the undeniable truth still sitting thousands of meters underwater? We're going to strip away the rumors and look strictly at the known data to piece together this incredible timeline. Section 1. The impossible disappearance. To really grasp how crazy this mystery is, you have to understand just how profoundly normal everything was right before it happened. Look at the details from that night. They are incredibly, almost painfully standard. On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777, which, by the way, experts consider to be one of the absolute safest passenger planes ever built, was scheduled for a routine 6-hour hop from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. You had 239 souls on board. The pilot, Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah, was a veteran with over 18,000 hours of flight time. 18,000 hours! That is a massive amount of experience. Every single metric pointed to a totally ordinary, safe flight. Section 2. The final 40 minutes. Okay, let's reconstruct the timeline here because the pacing of this is wild. The flight takes off seamlessly at 0041 local time. For the next 40 minutes, everything goes exactly by the book. No turbulent weather, no weird mechanical glitches, absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. But then, in literally a matter of seconds, this perfectly normal night flight spirals into an unprecedented global crisis. Exactly 40 minutes into the flight, the cockpit makes its final radio contact with air traffic control as they're about to leave Malaysian airspace. The exact words spoken were, quote, "Good night, Malaysian 370. Just a completely routine sign-off. But man, looking back, the eerie contrast between that calm, everyday voice and the sudden, absolute dead silence that followed, it's just incredibly chilling. Okay, let's dive into this for a second, because understanding this specific piece of tech is absolutely crucial. Mere seconds after those final words, the plane's communication equipment was suddenly shut down. Most importantly, the transponder went dark. So a transponder is the system that continuously pings a plane's exact location, altitude, and ID to ground radar. Once that's off, MH370 essentially becomes invisible to standard civilian air traffic control. But here's the kicker. They weren't entirely invisible. Military radar actually caught a glimpse of what happened next, and it is totally baffling. The aircraft abruptly deviates from its route to Beijing. It pulls this sharp turn to the west, flies all the way back over the Malaysian peninsula, and heads straight out into the vast open expanse of the Indian Ocean, before vanishing entirely. Section 3. The search and satellites. So with the plane totally off the grid, investigators had to follow this highly complex trail of digital breadcrumbs. Now, even though the main comms were dead, the aircraft's internal automatic systems were actually still running. It's kind of like your phone silently checking for Wi-Fi in the background. These systems kept sending out these faint electronic handshakes or pings for hours. A British company called Inmarsat captured these pings on their satellites, and by crunching the math on that data, researchers realized something stunning. The plane hadn't crashed in the South China Sea at all. It had actually flown for hours on a steady trajectory straight down into the remote southern Indian Ocean. This data was a real game changer. It kicked off what became one of the most massive search operations in human history. We're talking over 20 countries jumping in, deploying massive fleets of naval ships, specialized planes, and advanced satellites. But the whole search had to shift from the relatively shallow South China Sea to the vast, isolated, incredibly deep waters of the Indian Ocean. The sheer scale and the geographical challenges of this new zone were just unparalleled. Section 4. Unproven theories and scenarios. Whenever you have a vacuum of definitive facts, theories tend to spread like wildfire. But we're going to keep a strictly objective distance here. Experts are basically divided into two camps. First, you've got technical failure, right? Could a massive fire have knocked out the comms and incapacitated the crew? The problem is, multiple independent flight systems would have had to fail at the exact same time without triggering a single automated distress warning. It's highly unlikely. The alternative is intentional action, that precise course change and the sequential shutdown of systems. It strongly suggests someone in the cockpit was actively in control. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why investigators are so divided by the lack of definitive proof. Investigators absolutely scrutinized the lives of everyone on board. They dug into Captain Zahari's background, the co-pilot's life, the passengers. They checked home computers, financial records, the whole shebang. But ultimately, nothing. No definitive evidence of a hijacking, intentional sabotage, or pilot suicide was ever found. Every scenario is plausible, but to this day, not a single one can be proven. Section 5. Debris and the Deep. For over a year, the ocean kept its secret perfectly, but eventually, the physical evidence started to wash ashore. In 2015, thousands of miles away, on the distant island of Reunion, a piece of twisted metal was found on a beach. It was a flaperon, which is basically a moving part on the back edge of a wing that helps steer the plane. Investigators checked the serial numbers and confirmed it was undeniably from MH370. This was massive. It finally grounded the investigation in physical reality. The plane had, for sure, crashed into the ocean. But this leaves us with this really agonizing contrast. On one hand, we finally have physical evidence, the flaperon and other debris found along the African coast, proving the tragic end of the flight. But on the other hand, the crucial data is still missing. The main fuselage, the flight data recorder, the cockpit voice recorder, those black boxes hold the actual answers. But they're lost in extreme oceanic depths, surrounded by underwater mountain ranges and jagged trenches that make finding them almost impossible. Section 6. The Enduring Human Tragedy. Taking a step back from all the technical data and the satellite pings for a second, we have to remember why this matters. This unprecedented tragedy exposed a massive, glaring flaw in our modern, hyper-connected world. Like, how does a massive jetliner vanish for thousands of kilometers without anyone knowing its coordinates? It literally forced the international aviation industry to rapidly change its rules. Today, global tracking protocols have been completely overhauled, so a commercial flight can never just slip off the map like this again. But behind the rule changes and the satellite math, there's this number, 239. It's a number we really need to pause on, because behind it are 239 real human beings. Parents, children, friends, colleagues, people from 14 different countries who boarded a totally standard flight and just never came home. For their families, the last 10 years have been this relentless, agonizing search for answers, waiting for a closure that the ocean just refuses to provide. So, as we wrap up this explainer, we're left with a profound paradox. Thanks to some truly brilliant satellite math and washed-up debris, we basically possess the geographic endpoint of flight MH370. But without those black boxes, the narrative conclusion, the actual why, remains trapped in the crushing depths of the Indian Ocean. MH370 is just a haunting reminder. It showed the world that even in an age of advanced satellites and seamless tech, some mysteries can still elude us completely. Will the ocean ever actually give up its secrets, or will the final moments of Flight 370 remain forever in the dark? Think about that the next time you look up at a plane crossing the night sky. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.